with the GPS. I figured it all out. I figured out the lies that are based in truth. I figured it all out, and I've got proof. But stick with me because it's going to be a long video, y'all. Now, I found a 15-page Marine Patrol report that had lots of little details that prove that the boys had been lying. So I've already shown how at 1:30 in the morning, the initial Lieutenant Odom with the Jackson County Sheriff's Office said that his deputies spoke with several of the friends who traveled to the island on the vessel with Nolan. And they said that he left in the company of an unknown female and that he chose to remain on the island.
So what was the next step? Did you guys ever engage with police? Or
Yeah, so the first time I talked to police was July 7th. I talked to the lead investigator, and I told him my whole story, top to bottom. Dot every I, crossed every T. I told him everything I knew, every little detail.
Well, that's a lie now, isn't it, Warren? Because you talked to them at 1:30 in the morning that night. I mean, did you just forget to tell the cops about Katie? Because it's not like you didn't know it was her or you didn't know how to get in contact with her.
the girl that he was with, Katie, had texted somebody that she heard people yelling.
Correct.
Nolan yelling.
Yeah, and I have a picture of that. She texted my buddy, and the next day everybody was panicking. Everybody's texting Katie, because she was obviously seeing Nolan the whole day at the island. Katie sent a message to my buddy the next day and said, oh, this is the last time I saw him, he's really sweet. But she also mentioned that the last time she saw Nolan was when my buddy was yelling at him to get on the boat.
But Katie says that she assumed that she went on the boat after y'all were yelling at him. And let's not forget that the last time you saw him was 3.
Well, the last time I saw Nolan was 3 o'clock. And Nolan was cradling a girl in his arms.
And yet for some reason around noon, the name of another girl who hadn't even seen Nolan in a year was given to the patrol to go interview, saying that she was with that group, not Katie. They also gave the name of a couple of other friends who they weren't able to get in contact with. And despite having a picture of a text message from Katie, funny how you didn't share that with Officer Tatum. Probably could have cleared up some stuff real quick, right? Now let's get to the data. Now, at about 1:30 on July 5th, they were doing a flight of drones based on the relation of the last known anchor position of the Atkinson vessel, which I have documented right here. 4:30, Officer Strickland contacted Jennifer Pyrone, who was Wyatt's mother, who told them that he had already spoken to officers earlier in that day, but they were happy to cooperate with any investigation. And she let this officer take a picture of the GPS. Officer Strickland observed the track line showing Pyrone's vessel location on Horn Island, then gave coordinates. I'm going to need you to remember this exact phrasing. It's going to be important later on. Now, this was the GPS coordinates from the picture that the officer took, meaning that these coordinates had to be a different one that was verbally given over the phone by Wyatt. And you'll notice they're quite different. Now, you'll notice that this incident report says the involved entities are Bart Edmington and Jerry Adkerson, not Wyatt. Even though Wyatt is 18, he should be on this report. And you could argue that they were just giving the names of the people that owned the boats, but somehow I doubt that 21-year-old Bart owns that boat. You'll notice on this report that 2 different pieces of GPS evidence were collected. So now we're going to go to the July 8th report where they came and they took those GPS coordinates from both the Adkerson boat and Bart's boat. Yellow is Bart, blue is the grandfather Jerry. The same Jerry that called and canceled the sea tow as the sea tow phone call was being made. Now, mind you, this is 3 days after the police had come and spoken to the mother and gotten the GPS coordinates. Now, Bart had a germane GPS map chart plotter. Jerry's boat also contained a germane GPS map chart plotter. Now, I had to look up the difference between waypoints, tracks, and routes. So waypoints mark specific spots. Routes connect them in a planned order, and tracks record your actual path. Now, according to that GPS data, there is no movement from 11 to 4:30, but we know that that's not true. Warren has never been able to logically explain how they ended up so far away from the shore. Because according to him, he said at 3 o'clock, that was the last time he saw Nolan, Bart was trying to yell at him to get on the boat. His brother got into a fight, so he got his brother to come over there. That's when he saw that it was all sinking, because he said this.
There's a lot of people on, so it drags water in, and eventually, I think over time we were out there for a couple hours, the boat just started filling up with water. So I popped the starboard side hatch and the battery the battery was completely underwater.
Yes, but according to Warren, he had just seen Nolan, like, neck deep, cradling a girl at the boat next to them. So how did they end up in 31 feet of water at the 4 o'clock call? There's an hour in between that. If the battery is submerged, how would they even get away from the sandbar? You can see in the background of this picture, they are far away from people. And yet this GPS is saying that you were stationary the whole time. But why? Especially because we have actual fucking proof right here. We have the coordinates that Wyatt's mom gave them the second time, and the cop took a picture of the GPS. Compare it to the GPS coordinates in which they were trying to get a tow from. But what if I were to tell you that not only does a waypoint need to be physically saved on this exact type of GPS, you have to intentionally say, mark this spot, or else it doesn't automatically save. It records your tracks automatically, but those are just saved coordinates. And it turns out you can actually delete tracks. It's super easy. You just go into the main menu and you delete it off of your data. So why is this GPS data, which is right here, so much further away than what the GPS says it is later? There's no data included in that GPS report that explains them going from here to here, unless someone went in and deleted those tracks. Because they probably dropped that waypoint once they anchored, which would explain why Warren said they showed up at 10:30 and the GPS says that they showed up after 11. And so then it wasn't until half an hour after the canceled tow that they dropped another waypoint. And mind you, the exact same GPS was used in both boats, and Wyatt/Jerry's boat has the tracks and routes where Bart's does not. And again, it tracks it automatically. So you have to intentionally delete those tracks. And why did they do that? Well,
they had a story ready, and it was clean, too clean. At 1:30 in the morning, officers made first contact with the group. And what they were told was simple. Nolan left on his own. He left with an unknown female, and he chose to stay on the island. His choice. Nobody's fault. Case closed. Okay, take a look at this for a moment. Because that word, unknown, that word is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because they already knew exactly who that girl was. Her name was Katie. And one of the boys in that group had a picture right there on his phone. A text message from Katie, sent that same night. And here's what that message said. Katie said she heard people yelling, and she assumed that Nolan had gotten back on the boat. She assumed. She did not see him get on that boat. She did not watch him walk away safely. She heard yelling, and she filled in the rest herself. That is not confirmation that Nolan was fine. That is one person's guess, made in the middle of a chaotic night on the water. Now stay with me, because it gets worse. Warren, one of the friends on that trip, gave investigators his account of the night, and he said that at 3 a.m., that was the last time he physically saw Nolan. And the way he described it, Nolan was neck deep in the water, cradling a girl in his arms. That is the last confirmed visual. Not Nolan walking off laughing. Not Nolan choosing to stay behind. Neck deep in the Gulf at 3 o'clock in the morning. Now here is the detail that should make you stop scrolling. The next day, when investigators followed up and asked about the girl Nolan was last seen with, the group gave them a name. But it was not Katie. It was a completely different girl. Someone who had not even seen Nolan in over a year. Not the girl with the text message. Not the girl who heard the yelling. A different name, entirely. And Officer Tatum, the responding officer on location that night, never received Katie's name. Never got a chance to follow up with her directly, even though the boys had her text message sitting right there on a phone the whole time. They had a picture of that text message the whole time. And they never once gave Katie's name to police. So the real question isn't where Nolan went. The real question is, what were they trying to make sure nobody found out? If you want to follow this case as new evidence surfaces, and trust me, it keeps coming, make sure you are subscribed right now. Because the next chapter is where the GPS data changes everything. Javiah Harris's remains have been linked. Chapter 2. What the GPS should have recorded. Now, let's talk about the boats. Because this is where the evidence stops being circumstantial and starts being something that is very hard to explain away. Buried inside a 15-page Marine Patrol report is a piece of data that nobody in that group has been able to account for. GPS data. Now, before we get into what was found, you need to understand how Marine GPS chart plotters actually work. Because the technology itself is the whole story here. There are 3 things a Marine GPS records. First, waypoints. A waypoint is a specific location you manually mark yourself. You have to intentionally press a button and say, "Mark this spot." It does not happen on its own. Second, routes. A route is a planned path, connecting waypoints in a specific order, also manually created. And third, tracks. Now watch this, because tracks are completely different. Tracks record automatically every movement, every direction, every location. You do not set it up. You do not press anything. The device records your path, whether you want it to or not, unless someone goes into the main menu, finds the track data, and manually deletes it. Okay, now here is where this gets serious. On July 8th, 3 days after officers had already visited and spoken to the family, investigators collected GPS data from both boats. 2 boats, 2 Garmin GPS chart plotters. Same type of device, same model. Jerry's boat, Wyatt's grandfather, had tracks, had routes, data present. Bart's boat, no tracks, none. Now, a device that automatically records movement on a boat that was allegedly out on the Gulf that night had 0 track data. And remember, tracks do not just disappear on their own. You have to go in and delete them, intentionally. Right here, pause for just 1 second. If this case is new to you, and you want every update the moment it drops, subscribe and hit the bell right now. Because what comes next in this timeline is the part that investigators have not publicly explained yet. Now let's talk about the coordinate discrepancy, because this is another detail sitting inside that Marine Patrol report. That raises a very direct question. When Officer Strickland contacted Jennifer Pyron, Wyatt's mother, she allowed the officer to take a photograph directly of the GPS device itself. Those coordinates were documented. Now compare those coordinates to the coordinates that Wyatt had verbally given officers over the phone. They were different, not slightly off, noticeably different. 2 sets of coordinates. Same boat, same night, and they do not match. Now let's talk about Jerry Atkinson, because his name keeps appearing in this case in ways that are difficult to ignore. Jerry Atkinson is Wyatt's grandfather. He is also the owner of Ocean Marine Group, a boat dealership operating out of Ocean Springs and Gulfport, Mississippi. This man works with marine vessels professionally. He knows how GPS chart plotters operate. He knows what they record. He knows how to navigate their menus, and he knows exactly how to clear data off of them. Now here is the detail that ties all of this together. On the night Nolan went missing, a tow call was made. The group was stranded. They needed help. And as that tow call was actively being placed, Jerry Atkinson called and canceled it. Not after the tow was dispatched, while the call was still being made. Which means Wyatt had already called Jerry before the tow company even knew they needed help. Jerry knew what was happening before the distress call went out, and then he shut it down. A man who owns a marine dealership, who knows exactly what that GPS records and exactly how to clear it, canceled a rescue for a group of teenagers stranded on the Gulf. And the one boat with missing track data just happens to be the one allegedly closest to Nolan when he vanished. Mitt. Chapter 3. The 30 minutes nobody can account for. Let's build the timeline. Because when you line up what actually happened that night, minute by minute, the version of events the group gave investigators does not hold together. It started on the beach. A fight broke out. It began with one person and pulled in Warren's younger brother. And the moment that fight escalated, someone made a call. We need to leave, now. The whole group started moving, drunk, rushing, no real plan. And in that rush, Wyatt's boat left without trimming the motor down properly. Now, for anyone who has never been on a boat, trim controls the angle of the motor in the water. Get it wrong, and you are running the engine at the wrong angle. You overheat it fast. That is exactly what happened. The motor overheated. The bilge pump, the pump designed to remove water taking on inside the boat, started shorting out. Waves were crashing in. Water was rising. And the battery, according to Warren's own account, was completely submerged. Okay. Stay with me here, because this is where the story breaks. Warren said the battery was underwater. He said the boat had been filling up for hours, but by 4 a.m., when the distress call finally went out, that boat was sitting in 31 feet of water. 31 feet, far from shore, far from the crowd, far from where the GPS claims they were sitting still. Now, here is the question nobody has answered. If that battery was submerged, how did that boat travel far enough to end up in 31 feet of water? A dead battery does not power a motor. A flooded bilge pump does not move a vessel. And yet, there is a photograph. A photograph showing that boat, visibly far from shore, far from people, in open water. The GPS says stationary the entire time. The photograph says otherwise. One of those things is not telling the truth. Now, Bart's mother posted on Facebook. She shared photographs from her son's boat, showing the group's vessel about to be towed. She presented it as evidence that Bart was there to help. And on the surface, that is exactly what it looks like. Bart's boat. Present, assisting. But here is the detail that does not sit right. Warren had described Bart as the one yelling at Nolan to get on the boat, before any of the mechanical trouble started, before the battery went underwater, before the bilge pump failed. So Bart was already there, already engaged with Nolan directly, before his boat allegedly became the rescue vessel. And then there is the window. 30 minutes between when things allegedly went wrong and when the first distress call went out. 30 minutes of no GPS movement, no call for help, no record of anyone doing anything. Just silence. 30 minutes. No movement on the GPS, no call for help. And somewhere inside that window, Nolan Wells stopped being someone they were looking for and started being a problem they needed a story for. Javiah Harris's remains have been... Chapter 4. where the case stands right now. Here is what is confirmed. Right now, on the record, 2 autopsies have been completed on Nolan Wells. Grand jury proceedings are actively underway. The FBI has an open threats investigation connected to this case, and subpoenas have been issued to major technology platforms. That is not a cold case sitting in a filing cabinet. That is an active investigation with serious legal machinery running behind it. Now, let's be direct about something important. Bart Edmonston has not been charged with anything. He has not been named as a suspect by any law enforcement agency in any official capacity. What has happened is that his name has appeared repeatedly inside unverified theories built from ambiguous evidence. And the consequences of that are already real. Weeks before this GPS theory surfaced, Bart was the center of a separate, unverified claim, built around a misidentified photograph. That claim spread fast. It was taken as fact by thousands of people online, and it was wrong. Bart's family retained attorney Russ Latino. A formal cease and desist was filed. Legal action was pursued against the creator who spread it. That is not a hypothetical consequence. That is a real lawsuit over a claim that collapsed under basic scrutiny. Now a second theory has emerged, more detailed, more serious, built on GPS data gaps and a 30-minute window, and pointing directly at the same person. The pattern is identical. Ambiguous evidence, interpreted as guilt, and broadcast to hundreds of thousands of people before a single official finding has confirmed it. Here is what this case actually needs right now. Not another theory built on a data gap. Not another named individual attached to an unproven claim. What it needs is for the investigative machinery already running to finish its work. The grand jury is meeting. The subpoenas are active. And every time this case has gone quiet, something new has surfaced. This channel will be here when it does. Subscribe now, because the next update on Nolan Wells may be the one that finally changes everything.